You're listening to Three Kitchens Podcast, a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. Now let's get cooking, 'cause I'm starving.
Today's episode of Three Kitchens is sponsored by Pod Power. With Pod Power, our sponsors are making it possible for us to amplify the voices of Albertans with Alberta podcasters. This episode, the Edmonton Community Foundation is helping us give a Pod Power shout out to Bookwoman.
Bookwomen is a podcast about editing, publishing, and writing Indigenous stories. Three Métis librarians representing nations from across the homeland aim to inspire Indigenous peoples to share their stories in whatever form that they enjoy.
Guests include Indigenous stories from diverse mediums like podcasting, burlesque, books, comics, social media, films, music, and everything in between. You can listen and find out more at bookwomenpodcast.ca.
I think we can just say welcome back to the second part of the first.
Second part of the first?
The second part of the first episode of the third series of Three Kitchens Podcast.
It's a lot of numbers.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Heather
numbers.
got them all straight this morning, and now she's just going to fall apart for the rest.
Now I'm done.
That's as good as it gets.
That's all the numbers that I know today. Yeah.
All right, who's bringing us in?
Wasn't that it?
Oh,
I
there you
think,
go.
welcome to Three Kitchens. You just heard that, which episode it is.
We are off to a running start. We have a lot going on. We did the fantastic interview with Janna and Ryan Greir from Whispering Cedars Ranch. If you haven't tuned into that, check out episode 1.
No, part 1.
Part
of episode 1.
of episode 1 of season 3.
That's right.
Of Three Kitchens Podcast.
Of, what are we doing again?
What is this?
Why are we here?
We're back. We're back from our break.
Oh, and we are back in a good way.
Oh, yes. We opened this well.
But first, we should talk a bit real quick about how we went to the lamb farm.
Yes,
And we bought lamb straight from the source.
that's right. We got to go and see all the little sheepies and all the sheep
I had to
dogs.
miss this one, but I was bummed because those sheep were so cute. The pictures you were sending me, oh my goodness.
They're cute.
God,
But you don't want to think about that when you're cooking and eating.
Different. I told you they're different.
They're different. Those are the ugly ones we ate.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll eat sparkles any day.
Sparkles.
Sorry.
It was
Or
twinkles.
sprinkles.
It was twinkles. I
Whatever.
made
The lamb.
the little lamb twinkles.
That's right. I think I texted back and told you, no, its name is Chops.
Oh, that's right.
Poor thing. Well, they are quite happy because they don't know their destiny.
And they get to live out on the farm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they're well taken care of, well fed. It was nice because we had a little tour. We got to see all kind of how they process them, where they bring them in, where they take care of them, where they do their lambing, where they turn them out, and the solar farm, which is
Yes.
exactly that, a solar farm. I can't remember who runs it, but they bring their sheep there to graze and clear out all the weeds.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And re-fertilize the soil and bring water into it. And what a great way to make it more regenerative.
Mm-hmm.
And something I learned that I didn't know, I guess never thought of, is that the weeds are higher protein than like grass.
That's
So
right.
they clear off like the scrubby weeds. It's like they just clear all the leaves off them and leave these stubby sticks behind.
That's right.
And they're real fat. They're fattened up because they're eating all the high protein weeds. So that was nice. And we brought a big box of lamb home.
Well, we got a whole lamb and it was cut into different
Already
cuts.
butchered and already
Frozen.
in their cuts and frozen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then we split that up and decided to do something with it.
Heather and I brought these 2 coolers back and we just started dividing around all the different cuts of meat. And I was so excited to bring it all home. I was like a kid on Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can cook lamb all winter.
I ate lamb 4 days in a row this week.
We were pretty lucky.
We all did, I think.
It has been such a treat. I'm a lover of lamb already.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just excited about this week. I think you were too, Sarah.
Yep, very.
And now Heather is as crazy as we are now.
Possibly. Like I would never have said I didn't like it. I just didn't have a lot of experience of eating it. But I really enjoyed all the things we made.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I used the ground lamb. I asked for all the ground lamb from you guys because I went into my Dishoom cookbook and I got a shish kebab recipe out of it. And listeners, I simplified it for you.
Oh,
yay!
And I put it on the website. So then you can now not be intimidated that it's from Dishoom. It's doable.
You absolutely have to make it then.
It was.
I absolutely cannot wait to make it. All right, I want to hear all about that after the break.
For sure.
Yeah.
Heather, what did you...
So I had this recipe that I had come across that I wanted to make. It was a beer... the alliteration is going to kill me. A beer braised beef brisket pie. And I took that as kind of my inspiration and I modified it a bunch and I made a lamb shepherd's pie, which seemed kind of fitting because in the first part,
yes,
Ryan made some comment about how they like to bring that out at restaurants and say, well, real shepherd's pie has lamb. Do you want some lamb? We got some lamb for you.
I think they got me with that.
I know. I never thought about it.
I'd never put two and two together, and it was like,
and that's what I grew up with. Lamb shepherd's pie. We didn't have beef shepherd's pie. I called it country pie.
Oh.
Well,
there you go. Maybe if it had always been called country pie, I definitely would never have made the connection.
Right.
And how about you, Erin?
So I took the lamb chops and I made them into a soup that was sort of something I've worked on and developed over the years that brings together some flavors and inspiration I had from when we visited Iceland, because it was something that was on the menu everywhere and I just ate lamb soup every day that I could at every restaurant because it was delicious, it was simple, and I made some biscuits on the side.
Because
you need to have something carby and starchy on the side of your soup.
I agree.
Okay, so after a quick ad, we'll talk about how we made these delicious dishes.
Yeah, I think we've got 3 winners, so you're going to want to come back and hear all of our tips and tricks for making them and check them out on the website.
Yeah.
Today's episode is brought to you by The Pulse. Want to start your day informed? Check out The Pulse, Taproot's daily news briefing.
The Pulse tells you what you need to know about Edmonton every weekday morning. You'll get short, informative updates about what's happening at City Hall, plus coverage of business, tech, food, the arts, and more.
You'll also get a little bit of whimsy from features such as A Moment in History and the weekly podcast pick. And it's free. Sign up today at taprootedmonton.ca/pulse. That's taprootedmonton.ca/pulse. All right, Sarah, start us off.
Okay.
Tell us all about this delicious kebab.
I have this written down, so I'm going to go refer to the website, guys, because my notes are in there. Go check it out. It's called Lamb Shish Kebab, and I used 1 kilogram of ground lamb. And what I did was I toasted some ground coriander, cumin, and garam masala in a dry pan. I have in the recipe, I put 1/2 cup of cilantro that's chopped up, but I did not put this in because of my super taster co-host.
I get how cilantro would have been good in this.
I think cilantro would have been good in this, but
yeah.
But you know what? It was good without it as well. 4 green serrano peppers. I think it could have used more. Red onions, minced garlic, minced ginger, ground black pepper, salt, and this is I don't know if you guys actually realized this. Did you see little yellow bits in the kebabs?
I didn't notice that.
I was too busy eating it.
Yeah.
This was my favorite part. And I'll tell you why this is actually included in this recipe. It was Kraft cheese, processed cheese.
What do you mean?
Poor Heather. She's like,
what do you mean processed? Like,
the
plastic sheet? Oh.
The American, American cheese.
Okay, now is this in Dishoom?
It was.
What?
And there's a reason for it.
This is very strange.
Okay, So basically you toast those ground spices and then you put your onions and green chilies and cilantro into a food processor, blitz it up. And then in a large bowl, you add your ground lamb and you cut your processed cheese as finely as you can. If you can get it fine, that's fine, because it's quite a sticky cheese. It doesn't tend to cut up very nicely.
I'm not sure you should be calling it cheese in the first place.
It's processed cheese.
That's something. Okay.
And then with your hands, you just mix that cheese into the lamb and you make sure that it's mixed up really well. And what that does is it increases the fat content of the mixture.
What kind of fat is in that?
Like
cheese?
the plastic fat?
Yeah, like plastic fat.
No, I'd honestly be curious to know what kind of fat is in it.
It's milk fat, isn't it?
I honestly don't know.
I think it is. It is cheese.
I think it's
just
kind of
not great cheese. You know how much I love processed cheese on burgers usually. I just never thought it would. I thought this was so cool that it went into the ground lamb.
That is interesting for sure.
Okay, so then you take all these ingredients and you put it into a stand mixer. You put a paddle attachment on, and then you want to mix this on a fairly high speed for about 3 to 4 minutes. And what happens is then I think it gets all mixed up, and you want to do it till the meat it's like lighter in color, and it kind of looks whipped.
Is it toughier? I was going to
Yes,
say
and fluffier.
Like
and
you're
fluffier.
like whipping it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool.
Okay,
then you put the mixture in the fridge for 30 minutes. And if you're using like bamboo skewers or wooden skewers, soak the skewers at this point.
Right.
Then you shape your lamb into logs, which was pretty funny because my family was like, oh, this lamb looks like poop, because basically you
make a log of lamb.
A log of lamb. So you shape your lamb into logs and you put the skewer through them.
Okay.
So I did this, went between 80 to 90 grams for these logs, of lamb. And I yielded about 12 to 13 skewers of meat. And then you heat up your barbecue to medium high. You don't want it too high. And then once you place them on the barbecue, you want to constantly turn them. And this took about 6-7 minutes and they were done. And then I served it up with a dip, yogurt, cumin, garlic, and salt. And then you blend that all up. And I put something called kebab masala over it. If you guys can find kebab masala, it's something that I just came across like a few months ago. Go get kebab masala. It is so delicious. Garnish with red onions, cucumber, lemon juice, or salted lemon juice. And you can throw cilantro on that as well. And I served it to you with pita bread. Did I give you pita? I gave you pita bread.
You did.
My favorite kind of basmati rice, which was buttered saffron rice, which is also, and that recipe is also in the website if you guys want to check it out.
Excellent.
Well, I would never have guessed there was plastic cheese in this.
But I was hoping that you would not look at the recipe before this episode.
Oh, no. I don't do that. I wait for you to tell me all about it. I thought this was so good.
So good.
It's more than one log.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of cut it in half, like twice. I put the pita with the veggies and everything all in and like ate it like a sandwich. And then I had the other half that I could kind of just focus on the taste of the kebab. And it was just all delicious. Like put that all in a wrap and just eat it all with the rice and the veggies and the sauce.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yummy.
Yeah. So I did somewhat similar to you, although I didn't think about cutting the log in half. But I just opened up that pita and pretty much scraped everything off the plate into the pita and then dumped the sauce on top and then wrapped it up in a little tin foil and just put it in my oven so that it just heated everything through.
Nice.
Oh.
And so while I ate what I had like a smaller portion of what I had cooked for dinner that night. And then I went to the oven and popped out my pita. And then everyone in my family was like, what? Where did that come from? Oh my God. Everyone ended up taking a bite. And my kids were like, wow, this is
Oh,
the
they liked it. Okay.
best
So did mine.
tasting lamb. Like, I couldn't get enough of it. I loved the flavors in there.
And I agree, Sarah, it could have used some heat. I wouldn't have thought there were really peppers in there, actually.
So something that I changed from what I served you in the website was I added more peppers into the recipe. This is just me. I know I'm very sensitive to salty food, but I would have reduced the salt in this a little. What did you guys think about the salt level of the lamb?
I thought it was okay, but I like salty, so don't go by my...
I didn't notice it being too salty either. How much was in?
So for a kilogram of lamb, they had recommended 3 teaspoons of sea salt. And so I changed that to 2.
Yeah.
And you know what? Nothing wrong with salting it after, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So if I'm going to promote this book a little bit. If you guys love lamb and you really want to learn about South Asian cooking, there is another fantastic recipe in this that you guys need to try as well, because now we've got all these cuts of lamb. Get the book.
I look forward to trying it when you share it with us after you make it.
I've actually made it. So
the sad part is that was all the ground lamb that was in the box. Went to this one recipe. If you're going to go buy it at Whispering Cedars Ranch, you can call them up and say, I want these specific cuts. And you can say, I want ground.
Call them up and
do it, because this lamb, Whispering Cedar lamb, is really good. This really is good.
Yeah, this feels like, wow.
Like every single dish that we made was good because of the ingredients and, the cooks as well. But, I mean, a lot of it had to do with where we sourced the lamb from.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what it's going to taste like. You're not going to get a variety of...
That's right. And it's not gamey.
But it doesn't not taste like lamb at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, I eat it and I'm like, this is lamb. This is tasty lamb. This is the lamb I want to taste.
Like, don't expect it to taste like beef because we say it's not gamey.
Yeah.
Right?
It tastes like lamb, but it's in the best way possible.
You can taste a difference. And it's just a preference thing.
Yes,
really.
It is.
Okay, let me tell you about a shepherd's pie.
Yes.
So I used 2 lamb shanks. It was approximately just under 1 kilogram of meat. Well, it's on the bone, so you got to account for that.
Yeah.
Onion, dried ancho peppers, cumin, oregano, chipotle pepper sauce, canned chopped tomatoes, malt vinegar, brown sugar, Mexican beer. I used Corona, the inspiration recipe, which on the blog I will link to if you want to go check out that beer braised brisket. Beef pie. It's quite different in the end, but if you want to check that out, it's also, they recommended Corona, and that's what I used.
Okay.
There was also coriander paste in here.
Ooh.
Sorry. But like, you know how you buy it in like the tube and you squeeze it out, the fresh, it's cilantro, coriander, cilantro.
But coriander is the seed, cilantro is the leaf.
No. It's just the same thing.
Coriander seeds and coriander.
It's like if you don't have the fresh, but you have the tube of it in your fridge. Yeah. Okay, so I put a tablespoon of that in there. I did think of you, and I was like, doing it anyways. It's all cooked in. I didn't think you'd taste it, and clearly I was right.
Maybe that's how I slowly changed my taste buds.
Oh, yeah.
Like, seriously.
Maybe.
It's like slow poison.
And I just, slowly take a little bit all the time, and eventually it won't taste like soap. I really wish. Okay, thank you for educating me on the coriander. I was not aware.
Okay, so start by rehydrating those 2 dried ancho peppers.
Okay.
With just enough water. So I took off the stems and the seeds, kind of chopped them into some like quarters, put just enough hot water over it to soften them. You don't want a lot of water because you're going to use the water in it's kind of a chili mixture that you're making. So you got your rehydrated ancho peppers and your spices and chipotle pepper sauce. So this is like in a little jar. With the Mexican foods, you'll see chipotle pepper sauce. It's like it's that smoky chipotle taste that you get in fajitas. That's what this stuff is.
Are chipotle peppers the red form of a jalapeno, or is that something different?
It's a smoked red jalapeno.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood that in my head because peppers confuse the hell out of me every time.
Think smoky pepper.
Yeah.
That is.
I just wanted to go back to the roots of it
Yep.
because
It is a red jalapeno, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Canned chopped tomatoes, malt, vinegar, brown sugar. You're putting all that in your food processor. Oh, and your onion, you have one onion, you're going to chop it up fine and soften it in whatever pot you're going to use is going to go in the oven, like so a Dutch oven or a heavy skillet, something like that. Soften your onions, take them out, put that into the food processor with your chilies and spices and tomatoes. Whiz it up a bit so you're kind of making like the beginning of a sauce. Then put your shanks with oil into your pan where you just softened your onions, and you're going to just lightly brown the shanks. And then when they're browned on all sides, you're going to put all that chili mixture from the food processor in there, plus a can of beer. And that whole thing, that's now going to be braised in the oven, covered for 2 hours, and then uncovered for another 2 hours. Like after 2 hours, see if the meat's starting to soften, coming off the bone, and just check that your sauce still has some liquid in it. Because if it's drying out a bit too much, you probably would want to add some liquid. Mine was fine, but if I'd left it longer, I think it would have dried out more, because you're going to uncover it now and it's going to dry out faster, right? So just keep an eye on the liquid so you're not burning.
What temperature was your oven at?
320.
Oh, okay. That's still pretty warm.
Yep. Then what I did was made mashed potatoes. Just make mashed potatoes as however you like to make mashed potatoes, and make a big pot of them, because if you have leftovers, there's other things you can do with leftover potatoes. I added some grated cheddar cheese into my mashed potatoes. Okay, so now it's done. You take your meat off the bone, keep all your peppers and sauce and everything in there with it, put it into a skillet, put your mashed potatoes on top, and bake it for about, I'd say 30 minutes. You want your potato to start to kind of get bubbly and brown around the edges. And then you could even put it under the broiler to kind of toast those potatoes a bit. And that's it. So you're doing the shepherd's pie method, but first you got to make this sort of chili sauce business to go with the meat. So it's an extra step because you're braising, as opposed to, like, say, if you made it with ground meat, you just brown the meat, right? So it's a bit of a different take.
Good. It was so good. Yeah.
That's like
so
deluxe Sunday dinner.
Yeah. So that's how I grew up eating shepherd's pie with lamb in it. So it was like more than just how amazing that recipe was. It was really good. It was like memories. I'm like, oh my God, this is like shepherd's pie. I'm eating actual shepherd's pie. It was so good.
Yay.
So good.
Yeah, I loved that smoky, peppery taste in there. That really came through, and it went great with the lamb, I thought.
You could also put this lamb filling into a pie crust.
Yes.
Or like put biscuit, biscuit go on top.
So good. So good. That's the way people should be making shepherd's pie.
I don't know that I could ever make it with ground beef again.
Yeah, I feel
so
a little bit bumped up a bracket, I'm not gonna lie. Like,
I have a new love for shepherd's pie.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. It was really good.
yeah, that was delicious. And how big of a pan did it make? Was it a biggie?
It was the big one. It made about 9 servings.
Wow.
That's quite big, which is good if you're going to put all that effort into,
Yeah.
extra effort into
yeah.
making your filling.
I got just talking about it. I'm just like, should I go in and take out?
I know. I was like, who has the other shank? Who has the other shank? Or did you have both shanks?
No, I think I only had one.
I had to check.
Someone else has a shank. This is the fun part we get to play. Who has what cut?
Maybe you could do a different cut and just, because it's braised.
Yeah,
Almost everything can be braised. Right?
Yeah. I'm just wondering if I'm too sick for it.
Lie down, Sarah. You sound good, and it's because you had my lamb soup.
Yes. Oh,
That's
what
my segue.
a savior. Yeah.
I really love this soup, and this was the best it's ever been. This isn't a recipe that is new to me. It's one that I've kind of been developing over time. And if I remember correctly, in September in Iceland, like a lot of their sheep just roam free, and then they have to go and round up all these sheep, and like kids have time off of school to help their families do this if they still do that, and they go and then they have these big feasts once they've rounded up all their lamb and stuff. It's kind of like a seasonal tradition. It's an important part of their culture at this time of year for anyone who lives and still shepherds there. And so we were there in September, and so I kind of crave this soup at this time of year, all the pieces came together. So I think I finally found this to a point where I'm happy to like put this recipe out into the world and call it my own, because now I really love it.
Nice.
I also used a kilogram of lamb. So it's interesting. We all used a kilogram of lamb to make this, to share it around. So it was a kilogram of lamb chop. And I have to say, like, these chops from Whispering Cedars Ranch are incredible. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the little tiny lamb chops that like come at the store. And I sometimes buy them to do this, and I'm always kind of disappointed at the quality, and like there's not that much meat on each chop. This one, I think I used 7 chops, and that was like meaty, and they were a good size, and great fat in there too. Like, all right, I'll stop gushing over the chops. I really was impressed. Okay, so you take your lamb chops, and in your big soup pot, you're going to put some olive oil on the bottom, and then you're just going to turn it up medium to high heat and just sear them on both sides so they get nice and brown and crispy. And then you're just going to take them out of your pot, and then you're going to pop in your onion that you've diced up, and you just want to cook it until it's nice and soft and transparent. And then you add in your salt, your thyme, your oregano, and your barley. And I like putting in my spices while the pan's still hot and my onions in there and the fats in there, because I just feel like heating your spices like that, just, I don't know, it makes them just a little bit more complex tasting and stuff. I don't know. There's something about that I've gotten into, and maybe it's all in my head, but try it out and see if you agree. Once you've got all your lamb back in, and then you add in 12 cups of water. It doesn't need to be broth, because you're kind of making a broth with your lamb chops. And so you put in your 12 cups of water, you've got your lamb back in there, and then the onion and all the spices, and you're going to bring that up to a boil and then turn it down and simmer it for 30 minutes. And while that's simmering, you're going to cube up, and I kind of like these things in bigger pieces. So you can kind of, whatever you feel is best, but cube up 3 cups of rutabaga, 3 cups of potatoes, a cup of carrots, and then half of a small cabbage that you just slice up. And that's all you've got. And so after it has boiled for 30 minutes, you're going to add all of your vegetables in that I just talked about there, and bring it to a boil again, and then reduce the heat again and simmer it for 30 more minutes.
Okay.
After your 30 minutes of simmering the vegetables, you're going to take your chops out, and I just put them on a plate to cool down for like 5 minutes, just so that I can handle them without them being too hot. This is probably the hardest part, because at this point, everything smells so good in my kitchen, and I just want to eat it. And I'm like trying to handle these hot chops and being like, my fingers are burning. So just put them on a plate for like 5 minutes and walk away, Erin. And then just debone the meat, tear it into bite-sized pieces. Like, you don't need to even chop this with a knife, because it is so soft at this point and delicious. Toss it back into the pot, stir it up, and serve.
With biscuits.
With biscuits.
Biscuits. Now tell us what kind of biscuits you made.
Can anybody guess the special ingredient in my biscuit?
Was it salted lemons? I always have to start with that.
It was a special salt.
Oh, she used your scapes.
Yeah.
Oh, garlic scape salt?
Garlic scape salt.
Nice.
Garlic scape salt. So these biscuits, I've made these before. They're the same biscuits I made when we went camping and I cooked biscuits in the fire pit.
Oh, nice.
This recipe is really like, if you want to take it camping or anywhere with you, put your wet ingredients in a jar, put your dry ingredients in a bag. When you're ready to make them, it's a shake and bake and scoop them out. They're a bit sticky and goopy to work with, but I mean, you can have biscuits anywhere, and they only take 10 minutes to cook up.
Nice.
Yum.
So these are something I will make on the side of like any soup. What I did was I substituted the teaspoon of salt for a teaspoon of garlic scape salt to make them a little bit extra special. The dry ingredients are flour, baking powder, sugar, salt, and cream of tartar. And then you grate some cold butter in there, add some milk, and then it creates kind of like, it's not something you can really put out on your counter and roll. It's more of
like a drop biscuit.
Yeah, so I like using my ice cream scoop and just ice cream scooping out onto the tray. It's so fast and easy, and your hands don't get mucky, and you use everything. Yeah. So they bake it 425 for 10 minutes, and then ding dong, you're done.
Erin, if you were, because I'm terrible at baking.
No, you're not.
If you were going to add cheese to this, would you just then keep everything, all the ingredients, like all the
I
measurements?
do have a cheese modification. Let me look and see, because I think I reduced the butter to about half a cup.
Okay.
Yeah, I reduced the butter to half a cup, and then I add the cheese just because I think there's enough fat in the cheese that...
Right.
Oh, what's a bit more fat?
Yeah, like, do you really have to? No.
Who cares? Do you think that I reduced the butter in those mashed potatoes in order to put cheese in it? No, I didn't. I just added cheese.
Yeah, no, it's a really versatile biscuit recipe. So on the side of a soup with more butter on top of it.
Oh yeah, I put butter on my biscuit.
I did too. It was and then perfect, right? I was sick.
Yes.
And we've got that cool crisp in the air because it's fall or it feels like fall. And just a perfect soup. I added a little bit more salt to mine.
Oh, did you? Okay.
And a few chili flakes because I needed for the sinuses.
I like putting lots of ground pepper on this one.
Oh yeah, great idea. I never thought about that. So good.
I also added salt and ground pepper to mine.
Thought
it needed just a little, but not much. Like, it's pretty darn tasty just on its own. Like, it sometimes surprises me that a soup it's really not cooked all that long, can go from water to this really flavorful broth, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you started with chicken broth or something.
Yeah.
No, it was just water.
That's so funny that you mentioned that, Heather, because when Erin was describing what you put in the soup, I was thinking of that. I don't know if you guys know the story about the guy who had the magic stone.
Yes.
And he put it into the cauldron and he was making soup, but then it would always have been better if you had one more ingredient to throw into the cauldron. And I was like, I love soup. And I don't make a lot of soup, so definitely making this one.
Yeah. And do you find sometimes if you have leftovers, it's super thick the next day, and then the next day you got to add more water, but then it doesn't taste right, and it's like...
And this one didn't, because I had half the first day and then half the second day.
What? How did you possibly put half of that away?
I was sick. I was not feeling good.
I put that whole jar in my soup bowl, and it was the perfect bowl of soup.
And it did nothing expanded, nothing got smooshy,
that's
and it was just delicious.
Yummy.
Yep. So listeners, I think for the rest of season 3, we will be cooking with lamb.
No, never fear. We have all kinds of interesting things coming up.
All sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah. And I think for anybody who is local in Calgary, you owe it to yourself to try lamb again and to go get some from Whispering Cedars Ranch. Oh my gosh.
They do make deliveries a couple times a week, I think, in Calgary. So if you don't want to go out to the farm, you can contact them and then just meet them and pick it up.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, you'll be seeing me again, Whispering Cedar. Can't get rid of me, I can tell you that.
I'm also just really curious to make that shoulder chop that they kept talking about.
Yeah, now I'm super excited about barbecuing some shoulder chops.
Yeah. Listen, Janna and Ryan, if you were exaggerating, you're in trouble. No, just kidding. We could have talked with them all day long about cooking it and eating it and what to serve with it and how to spice it and all the things. Yeah. So this was a great kickoff. If you're, like Erin said, if you're hesitant or you haven't eaten it in a while and you're not sure if you like it, can't remember, you will. And here we've given you 3 quite different ways of preparing it. And I'm sure there will be more in the future, and we'll post recipes on the website, or we'll put things on social that we're cooking at home. And so cook along.
There's going to be a serious cooking lamb section on our website that's dedicated. Fantastic. Well, this is just making me hungry. Now I have to go down to my freezer and reevaluate
What's in there.
the cuts I have and my meals for the week. So
I hope we've inspired all of you to also want to cook something like this.
And try something different, like 3 very different recipes with very different spice backgrounds, and so good, every single one of them. Let's say a great big thank you to Whispering Cedars Ranch and Janna and Ryan. And this was the longest year of my life waiting to get that lamb. And I didn't know it until we got it, because it's changed my life. You guys are awesome.
Yes, thank you. That was great. And now for the fine print. Join us over on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest, and on our website at threekitchenspodcast.com. And remember, when you like, follow, subscribe, and review, it helps more people find us. Thank you so much for listening.